Welcome. This week we're going to learn Parshas Bechukosai. So the Parshas starts in Bechukosai telechu ves mitzvosai tishmeru vasisam oisam. Then to be v'satikish mecha beitam v'asar sevula. Everything would be really, really good. So what does this mean in Bechukosai telechu? So Rashi says, I would think maybe it means that you do mitzvahs. Bechukosai means the mitzvahs. So, but Rashi says no, but it says ves mitzvosai tishmeru. So what is Bechukosai telechu? Mani mekayim Bechukosai telechu shetiyu amelim b'Torah. If you are harav in learning, you are amal in the Torah, you work hard in Torah, then you'll get all these brachas. And then, on the other hand, if you're not going to listen to me, you won't do the mitzvahs, then lo yaleinu l'teichacha. So Rashi says, you won't listen to me, liyas amelim b'Torah. You won't listen to me means you will not be amal b'Torah. V'lo yisasu, if you don't learn, you won't do. So you have to understand. I don't know if I'm going to say big chidush on there, but you have to understand. What does it mean? What does that have to do with amelis b'Torah? If you're not amul b'Torah, okay, so you're not amul b'Torah. So you have, you're an erech and you do mitzvahs and you give tzedakah and you're nice to your wife and you're nice to your children. Why do you have to be amul b'Torah? You have to sit and harva on learning, on Torah. What does that mean? You have to be amul b'Torah. If you're not amul b'Torah, so then all these klalas. And also Rashi says, if you won't learn, you won't do. Why is that? Why not? Because you won't know what to do. So you'll ask the Rav, you ask the Rabbi. The Rabbi will tell you what to do. Get up, make a drush. So you have to do this, you have to do that, and you know what to do. Why do you have to learn in order to do? And why do you have to be amul b'Torah? Not saying like talmid do. Why do you have to be amul b'Torah? You have to harva, work hard. What does that mean? I think the Parshas like this. It's Yedua, it says in many svarim, that a person has to be a erech. A person has to be always steiging, always progressing. If you don't progress, you will regress. There's no such thing as perfect equilibrium where you reach a plateau and you stay on that plateau and you don't go up and you don't go down. If you're on a plateau, gravity will pull you down. You will go down. The only way to avoid going down is to constantly be climbing, going up and up and up. That's what a person has to be. A person has to be erech, and then you could then you'll be all right. But if you're a yoshev, if you stay in one place, you don't do anything, you're going to go down. So, how is a person a erech? A yid, how is he a erech? How does he progress? How does he become better? How does he grow? How does he steig? So, if you do all the mitzvahs, and you do everything, and you do everything right, you do all the halachas. How do you steig? How do you become better? How do you grow? Why isn't that a plateau? A person who's, he knows what he's supposed to do, he does it, and he lives his life. Why isn't that a plateau? Then he will eventually, he's going to end up slipping backwards. What does a person do to constantly keep going forward? So to go forward, especially according to the Rambam says that the avoid of a person is Yidiyas Hashem. The Rambam in the Meir says everything, and the Shemona Prakim, that everything is Yidiyas Hashem. So a person should constantly come closer to Rebbeinu Shloim by gaining in Yidiyas Hashem. That's how a person comes closer. You don't come closer by shuckling harder. That doesn't make you come closer. By doing mitzvahs, how do you come closer in mitzvahs? the way you come closer in mitzvahs is by getting more insight into the mitzvah, by understanding it better. So understanding it better is Torah. That is Torah. If you understand better what's involved in the mitzvah, what's the reason, what are the inyanim, if you learn more about the mitzvah, that is Torah. So the way to come closer to Rabbeinu Shalom is just amelis b'Torah. It doesn't mean you should sit like in a kollel and learn shver sugyas. It doesn't mean that. It means you should reach for more than you're accustomed to. If you're used to learning chumash, then work on learning a little mishnayos. If you use mishnayos, then try the Gemara. If you're used to Gemara, look in the Tosfos. You should always look to add in your learning. And when you're adding in your learning, every bit of your learning is an addition to your Yediyas Hashem. So every time you learn, if you're learning something which is more than you used to, that means you're gaining in Yediyas Hashem. That means you're coming closer to Rabbeinu Shalom. And if you're coming closer to Rabbeinu Shalom, then you're not going to slip back and start doing Averis. But if you don't do that, you're not amul b'Torah. If you know every day I learn, even a person learns Daf Yomi, right? A person learns Daf Yomi. So every day he learns Daf Yomi, it takes a certain time, an hour, and he learns Daf Yomi, and that's it. And he's doing this for years and years, and then he's learning Taka, and it takes time and effort. But is it amelis b'Torah? He gets a comfort zone of that. He could learn the Daf Yomi, so he gets a comfort zone. But is he pushing beyond his comfort zone? Is he trying to learn something which he doesn't know? Or maybe I don't know if that's right to say that about Daf Yomi. I'm just trying to say that even when you're learning, if your learning is not challenging to you, then you're not growing in it. If your learning is just, okay, so this is it, then you're not growing. You have to take on challenges. And if you take on challenges, then you're always coming closer to Rabbeinu Shalom. You're learning things that you didn't know before, that you had no shaykhs to before. Before maybe you couldn't learn the Tosfos, and now you're coming to a point where you could learn the Tosfos, you can understand it. You come to a point where you can learn Kiveger and understand it. So when you take on things that were challenging to you and you master them, that is called moving closer to Rabbeinu Shalom. That is not just spinning your wheels. That is called moving closer to Rabbeinu Shalom. So every person on his madrega has to know where he is and what are the challenges. But the idea of Amelis is that you always have to work on challenges. And where the challenges are found are in the Torah. In mitzvahs, there's really no challenges. You do the mitzvah, you're mekayim the mitzvah. You don't do it, not mekayim the mitzvah. But where the challenges are in your understanding of the mitzvah, in your havana of the mitzvah, of your insights into the mitzvah. That is all part of Amelis b'Torah. So what Rashi says that talmid sasu doesn't mean because you won't know what to do. If you're not learning, meaning if you're learning with Amelis b'Torah, then the result of that is going to be that you're not going to go up, and then you're going to go down, and you're not going to do the mitzvahs. That's what I think there's a pshat over here. Now, so in the Torah, so the Rebbeinu Shalom says, I will scatter you among the nations, and all these horrible things. Then the land will have the Shemitah, with all the years which you didn't do Shemitah. So all the years you do Shemitah. So now the land will lie fallow. Till now you weren't. So the truth is that up until this point we have no mention of Shemitah in the Torah. No mention of Shemitah in the beginning of the Parsha. It just says that Amelis b'Torah. It just says Amelis b'Torah. Doesn't mention Shemitah. So all of a sudden we mention Shemitah. How does Shemitah come in here? So I think maybe you could say that we spoke about this last week in Parshas Bahar, that the whole inyan of Shemitah is b'tochen, that a person has to have b'tochen. Amelus, a person is omel in the things that are important to him. it says in the Haggadah, B'esam Aleinu, Elu Abonim, that our struggles, what are the struggles? These are our children. Because children are important to people, and raising the children is a struggle, and that's called their Amalenu. So everything that you do, your struggle, is defined by what's important to you. So if you are Amul B'Torah, that means that the Torah is important to you, and that's where you struggle. A person who's Amul B'Torah has B'tochen, and he's not Amul in his work so much. The work he has B'tochen. He has B'tochen, Rabban Shalom will give you food. The reason why a person doesn't keep Shemitah is because he's completely absorbed into his parnasa, into his making money, and therefore he doesn't have b'tochen. He thinks it's all coming from his work, and he works harder and harder and harder because that's where he is, that's what's important to him, that's what's critical to him. So therefore, he cannot keep Shemitah. He's like, what do you mean? A whole year, I can make so much money, and I can this, and even have more, but I need more. There's never enough, and So Shemitah is the casualty of somebody that is not Amul B'Torah. A person who's Amul B'Torah has B'tochen, and therefore he will keep Shemitah. I just want to conclude with a word here. At the end of the Parsha, we have the Parsha of erech, or if you want to be medagdik, arochin. But this is about erech. So there's two things. A person says Dami Alai, my money, my value. Then you do a shuma. You figure how much would he sell for in the market if he was a slave, and that gives you an idea of what his value is. A person says erki Alai, so then there's a fixed rate. A person says erki Alai, then it's like that a male is 50 shekel. For a woman, it's 30 shekel. There's a fixed rate. That's the erech. Now it says like this: V'hoya erekecha hazachar mibnesen shad, it'll be 50 shekel. So Rashi says this word erekecha. Erekecha k'moy erech. Erekecha is really erech. The kefil hachafin lo yadati meiz aloshnu. It's erkecha. Erkecha. There's a second chaf. There's a chaf and an end of chaf. Erkecha. Why is there a second chaf? So, first of all, in the whole Torah, in the whole Lashon Kodesh, when it says cha, an end of chaf with a comets at the end of a word, it's the possessive. It's like shelecha, artzecha, haaretz shelecha. It's a possessive. It's a suffix that indicates possession of the second person singular. Artzecha, that belongs to you. That's what cha means. It's a contraction of shelecha. Eretz shelecha is artzecha. Erkecha is not a contraction of shelecha. It doesn't mean erech shelecha. And you see in the Psukim, later it says like this: V'chishav le'koyin es michsas ha'erkecha ad yovel. V'nosan nes ha'erkecha v'yoyim ahu. So erkecha is a word. The end of chaf is part of the word. It's part of the body of the word. It's erkecha. It's like you see this from the Psukim. And Rashi says, why is it this way? It's the same as erech. It means the same. So I'd like to suggest maybe a reason for this. You don't find any other word like this. The whole Torah, you don't find another word where the end of chaf, where it comes, is part of the word itself, rather than being a suffix. We find that if you kill somebody's eved, then you have to pay. You're a mazik, you have to pay. But the halacha is, the pasuk says, you pay shleishim. There's a fixed price that you pay. You don't take the eved and figure out how much is he worth. There's a fixed price. You pay shleishim shel eved. You pay 30 shekel. Now, why do you pay 30 shekel? It's you're paying nezek, you're paying for being mazik. But anytime you have a fixed price, that's a knas. That's, you see in the Gemara, that's a knas. That means whether the evidence is worth less, whether it's worth more, the Torah says it should be shleishim, and then that's a knas, and that's a din of knas. Vaydu b'knas is potter. Shleishim shel eved is a knas, but it's mazik. It's like chatzi nezek of a sharatam is a knas, but it's tashlumei nezek. So over here you're paying nezek, you're being mazik and mezeved, and the Torah gives you a fixed 30. That's how we figure. Instead of bothering to go see the eved, how much worth, we do a fixed price. Over here I think it's different. Erech. Erech means your value, what you are. So a person, if he's a big and strong person, he's worth a lot. If he's a weak person, he's worth much less. If a person is in a wheelchair, if you're going to sell them in the market, you're not going to get very much. So the price fluctuates based on the condition of the person. But what it's saying over here, when you say erech and you're giving an erech, the person himself, in other words, disregard what he's capable of doing. The person himself has an erech. Every person has an erech. You're a chelkel kamemal, you're a neshama, you're a human being, you have an erech. Now, if it comes to selling you in a market, then of course you're big and strong and very brawny with big fat arms, then you'll get, the market will pay more. Otherwise, maybe the market will pay less. But every person has an intrinsic value which doesn't relate to what he is and what he can do. It relates to his essence, what he is. So that essence, that's the erech. And the Torah gives a number for that erech. Now, we're all equal. All of us are equal. Every person is a human being. He's smarter, he's less smart. Stronger, he's less strong. All that does not affect your intrinsic value. Your value is always the same. Because you're a chelka kamimal, because you're a neshama, and you have certain mitzvahs, certain obligations. A man has more obligations, a woman has fewer obligations. So therefore, the erech is different. But it's everybody. It's the intrinsic value of a person which is equal by everybody. So this has nothing to do with what you sell them in the market. So I think that, so this is different from shleishim shel eved. Shleishim shel eved means that I'm paying for the damage that I caused you because he's not going to be able to work. So instead of figuring out sometimes more, sometimes less, Torah puts a high value on it, shleishim, and that's it, and you pay that. That's a knas. So it's a flat rate. So we're just evening out all the fluctuations. The 50 that you give for erechen, for the erech, is not an evening out the fluctuation. It's an exact value. Because why is it 50? I don't know. But the point is that it's an exact value. It was by neved. Really, your hezek is different. You mazik a small eved, a big eved, an old eved, a young eved. Your hezek is different. So really, you should pay different. Torah says we'll make a flat rate. Over here, it's not evening out the fluctuation. Here, this is your true value if it's expressed in money. Because your true value doesn't depend on what you can do, what you cannot do. And it doesn't depend on who you are, or what you are, or where you came from, or who your father is, and how much yichus you have, or how much money you have in the bank. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do because you're chelek l'kamimal. And in that, everybody is equal. And we want to put a number on that. So the Torah puts a number on that, 50 shekel, that's the number. But it's really, this is what your essence is worth. So maybe the Torah borrows the endechaf from the possessive and says, erkecha, this is your value. This is the value of what you are. In this case, it's not a possessive, but it's alluding to the possessive. It's telling you this is an erech, not just shatzing up something. This is identifying what you are. And this is what you are. You are a chel kamimal, you're a neshama, and you're equal to everybody else. And the value of that, the Torah places the value of that, is 50 shekel. Chazak, v'niz chazek. Hopefully, we'll see you again next week and start Sefer Bamidbar. Thank you very much.